Hey everybody, it's Sarah Upsidedown here. Haven't got on in like a week or two, and no, I did not tell anyone because I just forget what day it is. But another reason of changing the times today, I was supposed to be doing an interview thing with another Instagram YouTuber, but that didn't work out for today. And so I was like, well, I'm just still going to wing it Wednesday and get on here and make a random video about something. um, my cat is in my lap today. I'm definitely needing her at the moment. Also needing some space. Such a cool shirt. Yes, I found it at Walmart. Super excited about it. If you haven't been to my channel before, I do content on ADHD, autism, a bunch of different mental health stuff, and just a lot of help, self-help knowledge of things that I've learned from what I go through. I'm like, why do I not have any STEM toys around here right now? Oh, wait, I have a cat. Never mind. So, yes, today I am going to finally be talking about my ADHD more. Most of the channel has been dedicated to my autism journey and just learning about being autistic and going through that whole process and like just a whole world of things that most of us go through whenever we kind of have that recollection. And I just haven't really focused much on my ADHD for a reason, probably. I think like my ADHD deters me from talking about ADHD. And whenever I found out I was autistic, I already knew that I had ADHD. And so I knew enough information about it. I'd already like obsessively researched that back in high school when I found out. And so like, sorry, my hair is like still wet from the shower. But anyway, dang it, see, ADHD. So I haven't really talked much about it because I just sort of knew enough myself. So like that was old news, and I kind of wanted to bring up all the stuff about autism because that was all like something that I didn't know most of my life. And I just felt the need to like get that information out there for other people and kind of like the process I went through. And yeah, so that's that whole thing. I'm like super spaced today because the weather here in Texas is nuts. And you know how that goes if you're from Texas. So with me, I think because I have hyperactive and inattentive ADHD, and so like the combined type, okay, you get both together. Probably also a lot of reasons why I like certain characters and shows and movies that I do, because they're like ADHDers that have like went out and done all this great things in the world and been inspirations and all that fun stuff. And so, you know, that's why I did a Jim Carrey video not too long ago. But those things kind of help to look at ADHD in a more positive light, and finding out later in life, well, not until high school, that I had ADHD, which like it was pretty out there. It's probably one of the reasons why people wouldn't have found out about me being autistic too. So I think like I have a love-hate relationship with my ADHD. Most people do. There's a lot of great things and there's a lot of stuff that sucks. So, but I wasn't diagnosed until I was in high school. And I didn't even realize whenever I found out about all this autism stuff that it was actually hard for females to get diagnosed with ADHD. I mean, it must have just been like straight ahead, like right there. You got it because you're just whatever. I don't know. So for me, that part was I guess it was a little easier because my ADHD is so hyperactive and other that, even in junior high and high school, that part was pretty obvious. I mean, I think that it's the same, though, that more boys are diagnosed with those things than girls. As far as when you're children and when they're looking at you as a child, because a lot of the characters I look up are also mostly boys. So, I guess it's kind of the same thing, like any sort of neurological difference or whatever. Mostly boys are supposedly just supposed to have these things. Anyway, frustrating, but not true, because I have a lot of the traits as far as being an autistic and being ADHD as what they would more see in boys, whatever. And I still wasn't, I still didn't know about that until I was in high school. A lot of the reasons why I got diagnosed then, of course, my mom wanted to take me. She's probably like, why does she just like not stop talking about her special interests? Like, because I excessively talked. That's something that, can be in some autistics and a lot of times ADHD. And ADHD people have special interests too. So there's just like a lot of overlapping, but it was more like I maybe frustrated people or the certain way that I was. And I was probably bullied because of some of those things. And I just, I didn't really pick up on it. So whenever I went in, it was, somebody else kind of wanting me to get the help to figure out, like, why can't I focus? Like, what's going on here? And I used to do things like set myself in front of the class so that I could try to learn. I would still lose focus. Like, it wasn't really noted or anything. And then eventually I'd just get to a point where I struggled so much, I'd probably just end up talking in class and get in trouble for that. Now I have to deal with hearing about that with my son, which is frustrating because, like, I know how that is. Also, ADHD people tend to talk like this. So if you're autistic and ADHD, sometimes you talk as fast as something that's really fast. Lightning. You talk as fast as lightning. I'm like sitting here looking at the flash. Oh, wait, it's over there. See, I don't even know direction still. But yeah, lost track again. So anyway, so I would go through those situations or whatever in school, and a lot of this stuff that I think was frustrating a little bit whenever I found out about being autistic. It's like, oh, we're supposed to all have this like super high IQ and be like Sean Murphy or Sheldon Cooper or whatever. And like, yes, I have a lot of similarities with them, but I'm ADHD is crap. And so therefore I did really bad in school. I'm not saying this about all ADHD people, but for me, I went to like 3 different high schools. None of them were really great for me. Like, it was just sort of like, I guess she, will either figure it out or, there wasn't a lot of options. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. Not a lot of options. I just sort of had to go with it. And so I didn't make as good as grades as I could have. I seemed to do enough or be functional enough or whatever. And so like I never got help from any like the special classes or anything. And this is 3 different high schools. Like, I'm not like, hey, pity me, but I went to 3 different high schools and none of them really, had the help that I needed to figure out that some stuff I just learned better on my own or, need a smaller class or whatever, stuff like that, because I need less distractions because I distract myself. If there's a window, I'm going to look out it. If there's a bug on the floor in the classroom, I'm going to watch it. And I hear really good. And so like, it's just, the sensory, the ADHD, school was just crap for me. So if you think, all the autistics or whatever, like super geniuses and stuff, well, that's also a myth. Now, I'm not saying I'm not smart. I just thought I was really dumb because of the situations I went through having ADHD. And it's probably why I don't bring it up as much as being autistic. Because whenever I found out I was autistic, I was like, look, I'm not an idiot. Oh, this is great. I'm glad I'm telling myself that. But I literally thought I just was like a box of rocks and not a box of chocolates. Like, I know the whole saying of life is like a box of chocolates and you never know what you're going to get. Well, guess what? Someone ate like half of my chocolates. Okay. So that's what it is. But yeah, I didn't, have a lot of support with the stuff in the ADHD area. I sort of have just like learned to cope with it with comedy more. And I think that that's what like a lot of my favorite actors and actresses do. Which is great until you realize that, like Jim Carrey was talking about, that you're like depressed sometimes. And, this is like pretty large with the neurodiverse community, us neurodivergents, autistics, ADHD, dyslexic, like a whole shebang, blah, blah, blah. I don't know, whichever you are, it's kind of a thing in different ways. And so knowing I was ADHD necessarily didn't help, even though I found out in high school because there was no support needs being met. And then later, of course, whenever I'm in my late 20s, finding out about being autistic, well, I'm sure like that's where some of the mental health things came from, besides, trauma, which autistics and ADHD can have as well. If anything, it might make them have a little bit more need for stimming and comfort and stuff. But it's possible to have all three of those. That's why I do a channel about like 5 different things. So, yes. Blah, 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 blah. ADHD, I'm all over the place. Thanks for coming to my channel today, whoever is watching. You can chat in the chat box since it's live. And I don't know, sometimes the StreamYard shows that there's like one person, but sometimes there's like 2 people. Sometimes there actually is one person. I don't really know. But if you relate to any of this, just do the thumbs up button. Click it, not do it, because you got to like click the thing. Because I'm sure some of these struggles are relatable. It's a wonder why we feel like aliens. Like a lot of autistics feel like aliens. A lot of ADHD people feel like aliens. A lot of ADHD people and autistics like are really great friends because we're just like both neurodiverse, and I'm both. So I just kind of like, but yeah. So back to the topic, ADHD. Talking about a lot of the negative parts of ADHD is, it's like I want to know myself that like these are some things I struggle with as someone with ADHD. Now, for instance, though being an autistic with ADHD, maybe a little bit different perspective. I try to like separate them and talk about them, but you kind of can't. It's just sort of all there, Pew. Well, it's like wanting a routine every day. And trust me, there's like 50,000 memes about this out there because, but like you want a routine like every day because you need that and you need to be able to follow it. And you want to be able to like do like basic things like showers and other stuff and whatever, and not just get distracted all the time. And like being autistic, I really like to have a routine. Like I enjoy making it. Like we're going to have a routine. This is great, whatever. And then my ADHD and my autism are just like, yeah. Because, I get bored, but I know I need it because it ends up helping a lot more. And then, sometimes it's a good thing though, because it makes me like not, I can be rigid sometimes with my routines, but it makes me not so much rigid because like ADHD people's, at least me, I'll speak for myself, but if this is relatable to you, say something, sup. Like where was I going? We space out whenever we forget what we're going to say. ADHD people really want change sometimes. And so like for me, it's like that whole weird thing where like my autism wants to really get obsessed with the food. I'm like really into this food for a long time. This food's really good. Like I'll eat it all the time or whatever. And then my ADHD, well, it's kind of like, no, let's have something else. And we'll not eat that for a while. And then we'll go back and do that again. Well, it's like that with a lot of things. So like it kind of helps with routine to have ADHD, because if I get too rigid and stuff with my routines, which, you know, is part of the autism side of things, it's in there somewhere, then I can sort of gravitate and I'm more adaptable to the next thing. I know I struggled a little bit more with that when I was younger, with being able to switch to different activities and stuff like that. But being kind of easily distractible, well, it's like the ADHD tells the autism, it's fine because there's something shiny over here and we're like a cat. And so, you know, it's like cat dog, like that show. I'm like cat and dog. Just imagine those two like being together. They're friends forever because they have no choice. Thanks for the birthday wish. Yes, I am finally 30. Obviously still look like a child. Anyhow. Yeah, so, you know, it's like them being friends forever because they kind of help each other out with some things. But I would say if I didn't have the ADHD, or at least maybe as much of the hyperactive, I would probably be way more of an introvert, kind of an ambivert. But I think like my ADHD has sort of helped me with the social stuff, even though it's not completely natural or whatever, because a lot of things just don't, like the whole needing to script and all that kind of stuff on the autism side. But the ADHD part, kind of like that hyperactive and hello, you know, like just really not always thinking about what you do or say thing, you know, being impulsive. Yeah. But it kind of has helped with coping with some of the social anxieties and social norms, because I'm just kind of like, blah, I'm here. Even though I feel super introverted inside, this is why I kind of fall into that ENTP, INTP, like, which one are you thing? Because, oh, and if you don't know what that is, it's MBTI stuff. But I forget that not everybody's obsessed with the same things. But they're known for being very ADHD type and sometimes sort of autistic personality, whatever, in that flow. And the ADHD part has sort of helped me like just go out and do things and be with people and stuff. But it did help to find out about being autistic in that area, because now I don't overstimulate, which is another thing. I will push myself to edges because of my ADHD. And so it makes it hard to like know my boundaries on like my energy and time and things like that, because I'm sort of just like, blah, you know, and not realizing how much overstimulation is doing. So whenever I used to like go to clubs or anything like that with people, I didn't realize like what was going on. It was completely overstimulating my brain. And then afterwards, you know, I'd kind of go into, you know, the meltdowns from being overstimulated. And so that was from, you know, of course, wanting sensory because of ADHD, but being autistic and having SPD and being overstimulated really easily. So that's sort of another thing. Like I just think of topics on the fly, whatever, I don't know, is that I crave a lot of stimulation and I really need that, says my brain. Really, I don't think that I care too much. Maybe that's what your 30s are like. But the SPD and autism side of things, sort of like it just, at least mine anyways, it's like less about that, like calming colors and not a lot of bright stuff and not a lot of crazy stuff and, you know, just not a lot of activities. And so if I was going to compare it to a character, I would say it's like, hold on. I can't find my mouse. Oh, there we go. The Flash right here. Definitely ADHD as the Flash, but like when he's a forensic, a crime scene investigator and stuff, and in forensics, I would say that's definitely like the autism side of things, at least for me. That's kind of how I relate it to, because I'm like super fast all over the place, like zooming around the whole dang town. And then on the side, I'm like, look, I'm in science and I do all this cool stuff and help people, but like with my cool science brain. I don't know. Anyway, or like L over here, very introverted, like always doing detective work on his computer, definitely autistic and in that area. But it's just so relatable to each other. It's just that I can tell now, like, what's kind of pulling me this way, why I can't have the routines, why I need to have balance in my environments, even though, the ADHD might need this. The dopamine's going to go boop, and then it's going to go, like, so there's good reasons to sort of balance that. Also, I need to stop drinking caffeine, but to be honest, it's probably not going to happen. Like, I'm a mom and I'm autistic and ADHD and I have 2 kids. And so like, maybe I'll get there, but we're not there yet. Sometimes when you're autistic and ADHD, mostly the ADHD part, you need to take breaths in talking. Like I forget, since there's no one talking back to me, that like I don't have to continue to do that. Yes. So we're going to do a little fun thing here, because I have been just babbling for like 20 minutes. I've been in a weird place lately, just like a lot more overstimulated and stuff, but like not in a normal overstimulated with sounds and things like that. It's just, going through different processes of thoughts and things, and a lot of it's been kind of crazy, and that can definitely overstimulate your brain. So I will be taking like a little sensory social media break. I mean, I'll still be on YouTube probably to do the videos, but I'm going to like take a break from everything else for a week, because that is something else that us as neurodivergents, period, need to do a lot of the times, and not drain too much of ourselves. Doing all this and remembering our boundaries in self-care. So I took a great, long, awesome bubble bath before I did this video, because sometimes it makes my ADHD have anxiety. So I needed to do that, and it was helpful. So these are characters here with an official ADHD diagnosis, because I tend to relate everything to characters in movies or shows, because that is part of my life, I feel like. So you got Barney from How I Met Your Mother, Tracy from 30 Rock, Styles from Teen Wolf. That guy, yes, I definitely relate to his flow of ADHD. Like, just like autism, there's a lot of ADHD people that have similarities with other ADHD people, but there's also a lot of differences. And so it's just cool to like watch those characters on TV, and they're funny and it's awesome. I don't know. Bart Simpson, yes, I would say ADHD, definitely some psychological things going on there too, though. I don't know. See. Blah, 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 blah. So yeah, those are some, Juno, yes. And plus I love Elliot Page and like pretty much anything that she is in. So yeah, I'm going to have to say yes to all of those. If you know any characters that are ADHD, list them below in the comments, or list your favorite characters or people that you just relate to as being ADHD yourself. So here is some of the book characters that they have. Tom Sawyer, Emma Woodhouse, and And Shirley, oh yeah, definitely. I love like all Anne of Green Gables, like whatever. I'm not afraid to admit it. I would watch those like all the time. Love those. So I'm like, who related to Tigger and Eeyore at the same time besides me? Just raise your hand. Or say something over here in the comments about a Winnie the Pooh character you relate to, because if you've looked into that at all, you will know that all the characters have something in the neurodivergence going on. Oh, I forgot Rabbit. Yes. Anyway, I totally relate with Christopher Robin in the fact that these are probably half of them are all in, his head. Calvin and Hobbes, that was always a good comic. I loved reading little comics as a kid. I wish I would have not cared more people thought back then, because I would probably be a huge comic book nerd. I had a really hard time reading books because of my ADHD and dyslexia, but I watched a lot of the movies and things about the books. So, oh gosh, The Owl House. Yeah, that's a good show. Dory. Come on, y'all know if y'all are ADHD, you have to relate to Dory because she is awesome. Oh, Sonic. One of my favorites. I know my son really loves Sonic. Like, I loved Sonic as a kid. I also loved, what was the pink one's name? Rosie something. Can't think of that at the moment. But yes, love Sonic. Definitely relate to that. Also, another thing about Luz from Owl House is like she's super obsessed with fantasy and stuff. This is another character that I extremely relate to right here because she is definitely like an autistic with ADHD, kind of like Entrapta from my brain just keeps going blank. I think it's melting. But yes. Super obsessed with fantasy, so much that she, goes into this whole world and whatever, but she also is quite impulsive and like, I don't think it's in a bad way though, but I could be biased on that. Captain Underpants, books that I really loved reading as a kid, and I know my son loves to read those. The writer has ADHD and is dyslexic as well. And so anyways, there's just like so many different awesome characters and people that and let me remove this for a second. A lot of times people ADHDers are comedians. They do a lot of comedy, they do stand up and a lot of that stuff. A lot of the comedians that you'll see that are well, I think the most hilarious have ADHD. I mean, obviously I have a ways to go, but a lot of times they are the ones who make other people laugh and, are silly and have a good time. And I mean, some people probably hate them for that, whatever, it's fine. But a lot of times, they help people laugh. They just bring an energy because they have so much. I mean, it can definitely crash a lot quicker if you drink energy drinks. So I would definitely cut off your energy drinks if you have ADHD because your brain's just going to like melt and it's exhausting. So it's just a better idea. That's just a suggestion. I'm honestly trying to do it myself, but yeah, anyhow, lots of energy, bring a lot of energy into the room, try to boost people up, are good motivators, and a lot that, is a positive, when it comes to interacting with people and stuff like that, kind of sharing that gift of energy, like here it all is, it's like a flash running by you and you're just like getting zips of lightning and it kind of gives you a little energy. Like that's a really good thing about having ADHD. But a lot of times when you're like the person that's always doing that and you're just building people up and you're hyper and you're fun and you're just doing all this and you're trying to keep people going and all that, you don't realize that like that's going to kind of make you hit burnout if you're doing like that too much and not like setting any boundaries for those parts. I would say that's more on hyperactive. It's probably going to make you more inattentive because you're like burnt out. And, you know, if you also have your autistic things and SPD and stuff like that, like me, like you're going to be even more drained and burnt out and like want to stay in your house for like an entire week to like rejuvenate that energy or like just decompress and maybe go out in nature and stuff like that so you can get your energy back from doing so much of that. Because what happens a lot of times is it sort of leads to more anxiety, more depression, you know, doing for others because you see that like it really does help and you want to be that. And you're doing it so much that, you know, you get in that fatigue and stuff. And that fatigue and that being drained and all those things, because you're just like, you know, throwing out all your energy and stuff in those ways can cause you to, you know, sort of go into more depression. But for me, as a person with ADHD and the depression and anxiety, it's like a little bit different because not different than everybody, but like I would say than just if I had ADHD alone, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that. Words coming out of my head is complicated. I was listening to this guy on a TikTok talking about articulation issues, and people say I can be articulate, and I'm all like, I don't even know what I'm saying sometimes. So thanks. But yeah, a lot of those things can lead to the depression and anxiety. And it's like whenever you go in to get a diagnosis, if you're older and you're trying to get, you know, help or meds or therapy or whatever, a lot of times they just give you that diagnosis of the anxiety or depression or like a both or a different disorder and stuff. And not to say maybe that isn't a thing, but I realize that from the ADHD and having that it leads sometimes to me having anxiety because I can't remember things. I'm like losing my own stuff constantly, but I'm really good at finding everybody else's because I'm like an autistic detective like Sherlock Holmes. And then and then, you know, continuously still like forgetting like where I am, what I'm doing, things like that. And then needing routine and not just it's just, you know, a lot of those things can be a daily anxiety ball. And so when you go in, like they're just going to see a lot of that anxiety. And so I had to realize that, you know, in order to help my anxiety, I had to work on some of the negative sides of the ADHD and doing different therapies or grounding stuff or things to help me focus or whatever. And that would lower my anxiety. And then I would have a little bit less of depression, hopefully. And that's just sort of like what I've learned through my journey with that. It's like taken a long time. And it takes a lot of introspection to see like, if I want to not have this anxiety and depression, I need to go over here the other way and start from the core. And the core with me, with that, besides, you know, some of the stuff that, you know, as far as the difficulties in autism and not all the bright sides of things mixed with the ADHD, you know, besides just all that stuff. It really helped to get to the core. I think finding out I was autistic was also part of getting to the core. And that's why later those, that information and those terms and all that stuff are important because then you know, okay, it started with here and now I can go up to whatever is next. And so whatever area you need to work on first versus just sort of working on the surface and working on the surface. Like for me, I had to like go in deep, figure out what was up with my brain and learn different coping things and having the terms for that. If you're not neurodiverse in any way, then that's why it's important to some of us. That's why it was important to me, because now I know the terms that are going on with my ADHD. I know the terms for my autism. I can kind of like, you know, categorize, calculate, whatever. That's not even a word. And I will be able to function better because I know what it is and I have a word for it and I'm able to use this word and like look it up and figure out, those different things. So terms are important for all neurodivergence sides or whatever, because even though mine is sort of like a ball altogether, sometimes if I don't look at the reasons why I can't focus and I'm thinking it as just my autism or whatever, then like I don't really know what solution to get to help or whatever. And so I just end up doing nothing and I'm stuck. And that's, a lot of things that I hear from someone who is autistic without ADHD and ADHDers and those who all just have the whole shebang going on. So, I'm surprised that I have any words left to say, because my mouth is like a jack in the box, and once it comes out, it's just there. So I love Dr. Seuss. I have always loved Dr. Seuss. I could read like any Dr. Seuss book and watch the movie still, even though I am an adult, because they're awesome and I enjoy reading them to my kids because I like that they rhyme. And I feel like a lot of the ADHD peeps out there probably would agree with me on this, because rhyming is where it's at. And guess what? Sometimes rhymers turn to rappers, whatever, or they're poetic, whatever. I don't know. But Cat in the Hat, as far as like really ADHD characters, I would say I feel like as a parent, I am the cat, and my kids are the ones that are, in that book doing all kinds of, silly, crazy, fun things. And I'm like coming in, trying to show them again how to do all these things, except for I feel like they show that to me more these days, which is nice. But yeah, this is a good book, so I'm just going to let it like play and y'all can watch it a little bit, because sometimes we'd like to be taken back to these good childhood memories of Dr. Seuss. Y'all enjoy your day and enjoy this book. Oh. I was like, oh, I should probably have the volume on. I don't know if that was playing through my headphones or what. So, my bad.
The sun did not shine. It was too wet to play. So we sat in the house all that cold, cold, wet day.
Yeah, let's fast forward to the cat.
The cat in the hat. And he said to us, "Why do you sit there like that?"
I mean, is this relatable to anybody? Like, just walking up in.
I know it is wet, and the sun is not sunny.
Not even your house.
But we can have lots of good. A lot of good tricks. I will show them to you. Your mother will not mind at all if I do. Then Sally and I did not know what to say. Our mother was out of the house for the day. But our fish said, "No, no, make that cat go away. Tell that cat in the hat you do not want to play. I will hold you up high as I stand on a ball, with a book on one hand and a cup on my hat. But that is not all I can do,"
I didn't even
said the cat.
mention that. Multitasking at its finest.
Look at me now," said the cat, "with a cup and a cake on the top of my hat. I can hold up 2 books, I can hold up the fish, and a little toy ship, and some milk on a dish.
I can cook, I can clean, and I can...
And look, okay, I can hop up and down on the ball. But that is not all, oh no, that is not all. Look at me now.
Master
it is fun to have fun, but you have to know how. I can hold up the cup, and the milk, and the cake. I can hold up these books, and the fish. Things, and I call them Thing 1 and Thing 2. These things will not bite you. They want to have fun. Then out of the box came Thing 2 and Thing 1.
Thing 1 and Thing 2 are definitely on the ADHD
And they ran to us fast. They said, "How do you do? Would you like to shake hands?"
Anyway, y'all have a good day. If y'all want to go back, it would be good to read your kids The Cat in the Hat. It's just a fun book. And anyway, y'all have a great day. Bye.